Alright, so I started chipping stuff. I got like a little pile of stuff that came off the bottom of Mary's deck. But the plastic tool wasn't working. And even using the ceiling hoist, I had it up as far as I could get it, resting on the bar in the back. And it's just kind of like starting to teeter. And if I brought it down to the wheels, it really didn't give me a whole heck of a lot of space underneath. So instead, I just whipped the deck off. And I'm going to try and just power wash it right on here, hanging with this sketchy setup. Hopefully it stays up there. Oh, it will. This is plastic pipe. You know that stuff's good. And that's climbing rope. And yeah, even though this looks incredibly sketchy, it is. La Power Washer. Hey dog, I wouldn't get under there. Not if you want to live. All right, so a lot of this stuff, I tried going after it with the plastic scraper. And then some of this up here, I went after with the hard metal scraper. And it just wasn't quite cutting it. And I really don't want to cut into the paint any more than I absolutely have to in here. Because I don't think that's a great idea. So these are the two little fellows I had. This metal scraper here is dulled. So I was just trying to keep the edge from getting too bad. As you can see, it's real easy to get to some of this stuff. So I'll take off this heavy loose stuff first. But a lot of this stuff here, I'd have to dig a lot harder than I wanted to. And I'll show you the plastic scraper. See, the plastic scraper's just not doing it. Hopefully the power washer will. Like I said, I'm gonna try and get to some of this first. Get some of this lighter stuff off. And then I'm just going to power wash underneath. I'm just basically, I don't want to come in contact with too much of the metal with the sharp edge. Even though, yeah, I know, the blades themselves are going to toss around enough rocks and stuff where you're going to eventually take all the paint off underneath. But I want to avoid as much of that as possible because the last one you could see the other deck. From the previous users, it looked like they cleaned it all underneath here with a wire wheel. And that rusted the deck to a lot quicker. So there's that. So before anybody gets on me like, oh, you're gonna, don't worry about scratching it up because it's meant to be that and everything. I'm just basically trying not to grind my way through the primer because there's a lot of places where you don't need it ground all the way through. I mean, there's gonna be places along the edges and things like that where it's gonna do that naturally on its own. But I don't have to actively go out there and try and damage the machine. I've seen some people go after the machines with a chisel, and then after a couple of years, they're like, oh, I don't know, my deck is completely destroyed. Okay, well, I know why. All right, so I got a halfway decent pile there. And I got about all I can get out of here. I mainly want to get the stuff like around, the big thick stuff around these, so that the power washer can get into it okay. Some of that stuff, that'll just come off on its own. First thing I gotta do is get all the water purged out of the line here. You can hear it when it kicks in. More importantly, you can see it. This is without a tip on it, so that's why it's looking so crazy here. If I don't do that before I put the tip on, then I'm going to get 10 minutes of nothing but air bubbles, which super sucks because I've got a 50-foot, actually it's a 100-foot water line on it. There, you can hear those bubbles that were just in there. You get the idea. I still got to do that for another minute. All right, so first off, from the perspective, the car looks closer than it actually is. So don't worry, car's fine. All right, so I'm gonna have to admit, that took a crap ton longer than I was expecting, and it wasn't nearly anywhere near as easy as I expected it would. I kind of thought it would burn this stuff right off, and it really didn't. These spots here are interesting because that area there looks like it's already got no paint left on the deck at all. That's a drain hole on the deck, and then that started working its way up through here. So I can definitely see I'm gonna have to do some actual work on here, because I don't think the scraper is the biggest of my worries. That's for sure. And I expected all this kind of pitting and stuff to happen. I did not expect huge amounts to go away. So I guess this next year when I take it off, I'm going to strip it all the way down and then hit it with some POR15. All right, I'll let I get the bulk of that stuff taken off. Now I don't mind as much, because at least now I can get stuff off that I couldn't even get to before. In case you're wondering why the blades turn so easy, that's because with the belt not being connected to the tractor, there's no tension on any of these. So if I turn these, I guess you're not seeing much of that there. But I turn it and there's no tension on the belt, so these will all spin independently. I'll line them back up before I take off, even though it doesn't really matter. They will slip back out of position again eventually anyhow. Oh yeah, I'll do a few more minutes of scraping. Like I said, the next shutdown I do this winter, I'll take the deck off. I'll do this again. I'll flip it upside down, and we'll POR15 this puppy, and that should help preserve it a little bit. Like I said, that's not a hole, that's a drain hole. So at first when I saw the light come through there, I kind of freaked out for a split second, but I'm okay now. All right, so that is as clean as this is getting. I've scraped everything loose that I can get off there. One thing I did notice though, which I'm gonna have to deal with, is this bolt right here. As you can see, that's whoops, that's not all the way drawn down in. I don't know how that happened. Obviously it happened at the factory, but yeah, I'm gonna pull that back out, clean that hole up a little bit, and see if I can get that flush so it's like the other one. That should look like that, and it doesn't. All right. Well, that was easy. All I had to do was just loosen that nut up a little bit, turned it so that it's a shoulder fit, and then tighten it back up. So nice simple fix. As you can see, I'm gonna have to definitely paint that. I'm gonna have to paint that deck, no doubt about it. Didn't realize it was going to be quite that bad. I'm going to let this dry up actually, and once this dries up, I'm going to hit this with a quick skim coat of something. I don't really even care what it is. I'm just going to hit it with something. Just to make sure that these are dry, I ended up pulling the deck backwards, and it tipped the cups up and the cups drained. Although I can't do that with one hand. So you're going to have to just imagine what that demo would look like. Imagine this looking like this. All right, so in the end, and this is a fairly good sized, this is a coal bucket, ash bucket, whatever. That's better than 3/4 full. And that all came from the deck, which is drying out nicely now. So I think that's gonna pretty much about wrap this thing up. That was actually a little bit more work than I thought it was gonna be. It should have been in my mind like a, did you ever hear of a 5-minute job? Where you always think, yeah, this will take me 5 minutes, and then an hour and a half later, you're still messing around with it. It's that kind of job.